thing called life. It's time to get into our fantasy football power hour. Not one of, not a, but the fantasy football power hour. Happy to have you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of these Cafe Kubal studios and Cafe Kubal here where sports meets that thing called life. Cafe Kubal, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You will also find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location. You'll find them there in North Syracuse as well. If you have any fantasy football questions or comments or thoughts, make sure you send them over to us. Always happy to help you. For those of you that have won your championships, who want to show you some love and give you some appreciation for that. So those of you that were playing in the Wake Up Call Fantasy Football Challenge, we want to thank you for playing in the Wake Up Call Fantasy Football Challenge as always for all of our leagues in Central and Upstate New York, brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub, as well as to our league down in Florida, brought to you by Hooters on I-Drive. So whichever league you were in, our Hooters league down in Florida or our Wildcat Sports Pub leagues up here in Central and Upstate New York, we want to thank you so much for joining the Wake Up Call Fantasy Football Leagues and joining our challenges. And many, many thanks and much appreciation to all the teams, as well as our Marywood alum team, looking at my alma mater of Marywood University and the fact that we have a bunch of alumni go up against each other every single season as well. So a shout out to that league too, and many thanks to everybody who joined that league and had some fun with us. So if you won your fantasy football league, congratulations. If you didn't win your fantasy football league, well, you got to listen to Wake Up Call every single week because we start the preparation for you to win your league next season. We start that right now. So conversations happening today can help you win tomorrow. That's what we're all about here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So looking at the wild card round, we're going to do a bunch of different things on today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Obviously, we're going to break down the games, and then we're also going to take a look at them fantasy football-wise. So we're going to break down the game and give you thoughts here on my predicted winners of each of these wild card games. And then from there, we're going to also be giving you fantasy football thoughts. So that's why I call it reality and fantasy analysis, because we're going to be looking at the reality of it all, who I'm picking to win the game, and breaking down the game, and then within breaking down the game, telling you who you should play in daily fantasy to help yourself out there if you're one of those people out there that likes to play daily fantasy. And if you're not one of those people that's done it yet, maybe you want to try it, see how it is, and give it a shot. So we're going to help you navigate through that here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So let's hop right into it. Let's look at the fantasy and reality implications of it all here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So we're going to take a look at that right now in this moment. First game that we have up in our wild card round is going to be on Saturday, January 14th. We have a doubleheader, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Seattle at San Francisco in the NFC on Fox. And then at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC, we have an AFC matchup between the Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then on Sunday, January 15th, we have a triple header. Miami at Buffalo in the AFC happens at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS. The NFC's New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings happens at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And the night game at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC, Baltimore at Cincinnati for the AFC. And on Monday night, we will finish off our wild card round with an NFC matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the game that I didn't want Dallas to have to play. Their third game against Tom Brady in 2 seasons. They've lost the last 2. Dallas with a better record traveling to Tampa because Tampa won their division, and divisional winners get a home playoff game at least in the first round of the playoffs. So Dallas at Tampa Bay will be happening at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ABC for the NFC to finish things off. So Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, you have Saturday afternoon and Saturday night football, Sunday afternoon and Sunday night football, and Monday night football. So you get your fix. You get a night game on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You get day games on Saturday and Sunday. And on Sunday, you get your 1 o'clock and your 4:30, which you're used to. On Saturday, you get that bonus 4:30 and that Saturday night football to go with Sunday night football because the NBC has both. And then, of course, Monday night football with Dallas at Tampa Bay. So a lot of great football coming up, a great schedule coming up, and hopefully you'll be able to watch all these games, get excited, have fun, and enjoy all of the playoffs that we have here for you. Kansas City is not playing the wild card round. They've advanced as the number 1 seed of the AFC into the second round, the divisional round. So Kansas City for the AFC is off, and the Philadelphia Eagles are off as well for the NFC as they've advanced to the NFC divisional round of the playoffs. And so with that being said, Miami, there's some key games here that are going on. Seattle, San Francisco. Seattle and San Francisco, coming from the NFC West, will play each other for a third time this season, and that happening in the wild card round. The Jaguars will face off against the Chargers for the second time this season after facing off in the regular season on the road in LA. And then for Miami and Buffalo, they will face each other for a third time this season, being foes in the AFC East. And then we'll see Baltimore and Cincinnati play each other for a third time this season. And Dallas and Tampa Bay will play each other for the second time this season and third time in the last 2 years. And outside of that, we will also have the Giants play Minnesota for the second time this season, losing a close game on the road at Minnesota, 27-24, just a couple weeks ago. So all of the teams that are playing each other in the wild card round have already seen each other this season, some of them being divisional foes, which I think is incredible. Of all the games that we have, right, of the 6 games that we have, half of those games, 50% of the wild card games that we have, are against teams in the same division that will face off against each other for the third time this season. I think that's awesome. I think it's exciting, and it's going to definitely make for some really, really good football as we have the opportunity to see Baltimore, Cincinnati, Miami, Buffalo, and Seattle, San Francisco 3 times this season. So definitely looking forward to it and all that is to come in the playoffs. Seattle being the first team that we're going to talk about here. Seattle making it to the postseason after being the team that I thought was in the worst situation at quarterback. Now, Cleveland was in a unique situation at quarterback as well because Cleveland was put in a position where they didn't want Baker Mayfield anymore. They brought in Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson got suspended. So you're in this position where you're trying to figure things out and navigate through the waters of not having the guy that you spent the money on and getting rid of the guy that you had made the number 1 pick and had spent the original money on. So you got money going out the door with both of these players, one of them literally going out the door in Baker Mayfield. And in Deshaun Watson, he's trying to open the door and the door's locked. So he can't come in until later on in the season. And then you have the situation with Deshaun, so he can't come in until later in the season. And then Baker Mayfield, you let go of him. So you put yourself in a position where you spent a lot of money on 2 different quarterbacks, and one of them you didn't have because you let him go, and another one you didn't have because the NFL wouldn't let you have him until later on in the year because of some off-the-field issues. So I thought Cleveland was going to have a woeful, situation there, which they did. They didn't make the playoffs once again. And then taking a look at Seattle, I thought that they had an interesting situation at quarterback because of the fact that I thought, okay, they're one of the teams that I thought could have made a play for Jimmy Garoppolo, who ironically is a member of the team that they're playing against in the playoffs, San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo being behind Trey Lance, but Jimmy and Trey both playing this season. Trey getting hurt, Jimmy coming in, Jimmy getting hurt, Purdy coming in, and San Francisco is you have to look at what San Francisco has done this year. They're the number 2 team in the NFC. Number 2 team in the NFC. And they got there playing 3 different quarterbacks and winning with 3 different quarterbacks. They had Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy, and having how many teams in the nation can play three different quarterbacks? Miami barely got in without Tua, right? Carolina played a bunch of different guys. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Washington played 3-4 different guys like they typically do. They got eliminated from the playoffs. New Orleans doesn't know who their starting quarterback is. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Arizona had to play a bunch of different guys because Kyler Murray got hurt. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Justin Fields got hurt for Chicago. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Houston, Texas trying to figure out who their guy is. Davis Mills has done okay, but they got eliminated from the playoffs. The Colts played different guys this year. They got eliminated from the playoffs. The Cleveland Browns, like we talked about before, had to play different guys. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Tennessee had to play three different quarterbacks. They got eliminated from the playoffs. The Jets had to play three different quarterbacks. They got eliminated from the playoffs. Pittsburgh didn't know when they were going to start Kenny Pickett. They had played a bunch of different guys, and they got eliminated from the playoffs. So to put it into perspective, listen to everything I just said. This team played 2, this team played 4, this team played 3, this team's starter went down, eliminated, and on and on and on and on, except for San Francisco and Miami and Baltimore. Baltimore figured out how to do it without Lamar Jackson, right? They figured out how to do it. Philadelphia had built enough capital that they were able to get through, despite what happens to Jalen Hurts later in the season. Dallas winning with Cooper Rush. Shout out to that, right? But the team that really sits here, the two teams that are playing each other in the first game that's going to happen in the playoffs this year for the NFL, Seattle, a team that I thought needed a quarterback more than anybody else. It should have made a play for Jimmy Garoppolo. And then the team that had Jimmy Garoppolo played three different guys, became the number 2 team in the NFC, behind Philadelphia by 1 game. San Fran 13-4, Philadelphia 14-3. San Francisco didn't just make the playoffs. They were the second best team, a game behind Philadelphia, playing 3 different quarterbacks. That should tell you something about how dangerous San Francisco is in this playoff that we have here going on. By the way, San Francisco did not play Philadelphia this year. So they're one of the teams that if they see a team down the road like Philadelphia, and we do get to see 1 versus 2 in the NFC, it'll be the first time they played all season long. Now, I do want to make mention that in this Seattle-San Francisco Game 3 this season, Games 1 and 2 have gone to San Fran. San Fran won at home 27-7 over the Seahawks, and they won on the road against the Seahawks 21-13. Shout out to my number and my grandpa's number. If we go to that most recent game with Brock Purdy, San Fran winning 21-13. Purdy went 17-26, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. McCaffrey ran for over 100 yards, 4.2 yards a carry, 26 carries, 108 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Kittle had 2 touchdowns in the game, looking more like himself with Purdy out there. 4 receptions, 93 yards, targeted 5 times, caught 4 of the 5, 2 of those for touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey caught 6 balls, targeted 8 times. And on the other side, Geno Smith went 31-44 against San Francisco in their most recent matchup. 238 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. The team as a whole ran the ball for 70 yards, so Christian McCaffrey outgained all of Seattle by 38 yards by himself. Kenneth Walker III led the way with 12 carries for 47 yards. Travis Homer carried once for 5. Geno Smith once for 18. There was not a rushing touchdown for Seattle against San Francisco's defense. Tyler Lockett led the way for Seattle in the last game against San Fran. Targeted 9 times, caught 7. DK was also targeted 9 times and also caught 7. Lockett 68 yards, DK 55. Neither one of them got in the end zone. Noah Fant got in the end zone at tight end. Targeted 6 times. Caught 5 from Geno Smith with a touchdown. Kenneth Walker caught 4 out of the backfield. Travis Homer caught 4 out of the backfield as well. San Francisco recovered a fumble by Travis Homer. And Geno Smith also fumbled. And Seattle recovered a fumble as well in this game. So both of the teams recovering a fumble. Neither team had an interception. San Francisco sacked Geno Smith 3 times. Seattle's defense sacked Brock Purdy once in this game. So looking at this defensively, bunch of guys getting involved, and San Francisco getting one more sack than Seattle did. Both teams causing and recovering, or both teams recovering a fumble, and then looking at the fact they kept Lockett and Metcalf out of the end zone, and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle did what they wanted to do. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, is what they call the last player drafted in the NFL draft each season. And I don't like calling it Mr. Irrelevant because I don't feel like that is true in Purdy's case or in a lot of these guys' cases. Anything but irrelevant, very relevant. And just looking at him, right? Christian McCaffrey looking awesome with Brock Purdy. Think about it like this. Christian McCaffrey in Carolina didn't look good with any other quarterbacks, but he looks good with the third-string quarterback in San Francisco. George Kittle fell off the map. It was all about Mark Andrews of Baltimore at tight end, Travis Kelce at Kansas City, Darren Waller in Vegas, Dalton Schultz in Dallas, and George Kittle was just falling, and then Brock Purdy becomes the quarterback, and the guy gets almost 100 yards against Seattle on the road against the 12th man and gets 2 touchdowns in the game. This 49ers team has come to play. They are the truth. And they got Seattle at home. They've won the last 2, and I think San Francisco is going to win this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give San Fran the nod in this one. So my pick for the Seahawks at the 49ers, I got to go with San Fran in this game. Picking San Francisco to get the dub because, listen, I mean, San Francisco, they're just, I mean, they're that good. They're that good, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who their quarterback is. That's something that, you know, and like I said, naming off all those teams eliminated, right? Naming off all those teams eliminated from the playoffs. San Francisco doing it with not 1, not 2, but 3 different quarterbacks, and all of their quarterbacks looking like they could be starters in the NFL. All of them. You know, they got to figure things out in San Francisco after this season, but it's going to be a happy thing to figure out, right? A pleasant problem, I'll call it. That they have to figure out who their starting quarterback's going to be. You got 3 guys that can be your starting quarterback, where other people are looking for 1. You know, I still argue that Cleveland has got to figure out, is Deshaun Watson the guy? Because Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't have spent that money on somebody that had issues like that. That's first and foremost. You know, I understand you want to move on from Baker Mayfield, but look at Baker. Baker's better without you now in LA. So what is it saying? Is it coaching? Right? Is it culture? Because Baker Mayfield's better without you, and you're not that much better with Deshaun. Deshaun's talented. Covered him in college. But being talented is one thing. Getting into the playoffs is another thing. And when you got to wait more than half the season to get your quarterback that you spent over $200 million on, you know, was it worth it? I submit that it is not worth it. Worth playing in this game in daily fantasy, I would say Kenneth Walker III, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Noah Fant on the injury report. He didn't practice earlier this week with a knee injury, so just watch that. But those are your players for Seattle. For San Fran, Brock Purdy is worth the start because he's a danger zone type of quarterback. You know, I think of Stetson Bennett, right? I think of a guy that people wrote off and said couldn't do it. And here he is, 6'1", 220 pounds, helping San Fran to be the second best team in the NFC, which is a really, 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 really hard thing to do, especially this season. Christian McCaffrey, limited in practice. If he's able to go, I would play him. I'd also play Debo's ready to go, so that's great news for San Fran. There was a concern about that and how long that injury could be for. So I like him. I like George Kittle and a little bit of value to Brandon Ayuk. more fantasy value on San Francisco's side than Seattle, and I'm going to go with San Francisco in the game. But I do want to make a note that Geno Smith made me eat my words, and I'm so happy that he did. Geno Smith has been a fantastic quarterback for Seattle, getting them to the playoffs this season. I have nothing but respect for Geno Smith in the work that he has done this year. He's had 30 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He has 1 rushing touchdown, 4,282 yards, 69.8% completion percentage. And when he played that final college game, which was in the Pinstripe Bowl in 2012 against the Syracuse Orange, and Syracuse exposed him and defensively just took over that game and gave Geno nothing, and Geno had a ton of weapons that year, remember. So with all the weapons that he had, and I think he had Tavon Austin and Stedman Bailey and so on and so forth. With everything that Geno had, Syracuse exposed him, and I thought, he doesn't look like a quarterback to me. Well, Syracuse's defense was that good. Geno Smith got better. He's bounced around the NFL, and Geno Smith in Seattle, I thought he was a placeholder. I thought him, remember, he started the season, who's going to be the quarterback, him or Drew Lock? And I thought that they had these two former backups there to kind of just get through the season so they could get into the NFL draft in 2023 and draft a quarterback, because this class is supposed to be richer than last class's quarterback situation, according to some of the pundits out there. And so Seattle looked like, okay, let's just get through this season and then we'll get our quarterback. What ended up actually happening is they weren't getting through anything. Credit to them, credit to Pete Carroll, credit to the vision, credit to the game plan and everything around it, and to the work ethic, the dedication, determination that Geno Smith is arguably the best quarterback that he's ever been right now, right? He's pushing San Francisco. They're doing a great job. He's got the team in the playoffs. You know, I gotta say a lot about Seattle. They've had themselves a really good year. They're 9-8. They end the year with a winning record, and they're going to the playoffs with Geno Smith. So credit to Geno and all the work that he's put forward. I got a ton of respect for him. He has 1,000% earned it. Not that he had to earn anything from me whatsoever, right? You respect yourself and you move forward. He doesn't need my respect by any stretch of the imagination, but he has it. And I do want to thank him for making me eat my words that I thought two things. When he came into the NFL, I said he'd be a good wide receiver, and that was just kind of joking around because I didn't think that he was going to be a consistent quarterback in the NFL based on what I saw when he played up against Syracuse. Granted, that was one game. And looking back upon what he was then and what he is now and saying, okay, well, in the Big 12, you weren't really playing defenses. Everybody was just scoring a lot, and he was able to outscore teams, right? 60, get 70 points, 60 points, 40 points, whatever. And he comes into the NFL, and not a lot gets done, right? And here he is in Seattle, back against the wall. Russell Wilson gets injured. Geno steps up, and I was like, wow, he had a good game. Wow, he had a good game after that game. And then he becomes a starter this year. And like I said, I thought Seattle was just kind of putting placeholders there with him and Drew Lock, going to see what they could do en route to drafting somebody this year. And now they're in the playoffs. They've taken themselves out of being one of those high draft positions. And Seattle's done a terrific job with a lot of thanks to a lot of guys on the team. I thought Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf were going to dip in fantasy, which I think, at times you could look at it and say, that, obviously not getting in the end zone as much and this, that, whatever. But ultimately, he has continued to make them more relevant in fantasy football than I thought they would be with him. And he's made Seattle relevant, and he's made himself relevant in the NFL. So thank you, Geno Smith, for making me eat my words. And you have earned this long congratulations to you as you enter into the playoffs. I have San Francisco winning, but not because I disrespect Seattle, and definitely not because I don't think that Geno Smith is a hell of a lot better of a quarterback than I had originally anticipated this season and before. So God bless to you. Thank you for the chip on your shoulder and for the way that you played. I'm happy to be wrong. God bless you, and much love, and I look forward to hopefully getting to talk to you someday. Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the second time the Jaguars will play up against the Los Angeles Chargers this season. The last time Jacksonville played them was on the road in LA. The Jaguars typically don't win when they go on the West Coast and play anybody, and they were able to win this game. They had a 5-game losing streak after that, and then the Jaguars won. They lost 6 of 7, and then they won 6 of 7. So they ended the season winning 6 of 7. Right before that, lost 6 of 7. A part of that, a 5-game losing streak that happened right after they went on the road and did the unthinkable, which is defeat the Chargers 38-10. Not only defeat them, but defeat them substantially. I was watching that game at the Wildcat Sports Pub, which proudly presents the Fantasy Football Power Hour, which we are inside right now, talking about the reality and fantasy of things in the NFL Wild Card. Big shout out to the Wildcat. Perfect place for you to watch the games now and always. 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Massive TV screens, great surround sound, just awesome TVs everywhere. All the games, all the time, right there for you. Basketball, football, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, so on and so forth. Big shout out to the Wildcat, our home for our exclusive West Genesee Wildcats broadcast that we do all throughout the year at the Wildcat Sports Pub. Also Syracuse football and Syracuse basketball roundtable discussions, Major League Baseball roundtable discussions around the diamond that we just had with Mark Lukashevitz and Frank DiPino. I appreciate them for doing that. And all the special things we've gotten to do, celebrating the championship team with the players on that team, as well as head coach Joe Corley with West Genesee football, looking back at the history of things and ironically celebrating their sectional championship going into this season where they won a sectional championship for the first time since winning with that team that we just spoke about. So really, really funny how life works and amazing how life is that we celebrated the championship team at the Wildcat Sports Pub. And that was going into the season where Joe Corley led another team to the championship and won a sectional championship here this past season for high school football. So in the time that we were celebrating, in the year that we celebrated a team of history at West Genesee, the last team to win a championship, we get to celebrate the next team to do it right after, which is really, really special and really cool, and I appreciate things like that. So really awesome to tell the stories that we get to tell, and just how God works is pretty special and pretty awesome. So definitely appreciate that, and many thanks and much love to West Genny for making history here with the Wildcat Sports Pub. Always happy to talk about them, Danny Tome and the team at the Wildcat, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And for those of you that want to order takeout and delivery, call 315-487-2222. For those of you that want to dine in, go to the Wildcat at 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, right off of the Hinsdale exit under the bridge in the Home Depot Plaza. So make sure you find them there. Greg, and right over the hill from West Genesee. Greg said morning meetings. I can't think of another comparable story to Geno Smith as of late that has occurred in the NFL. Geno has proved many wrong. Yeah, and I'm happy to be one of those people. So the last time, getting into the second game on Saturday, the last time the Jaguars played the Chargers was earlier this season, 38-10, in a game that typically doesn't happen for the Jaguars, which is beat a team from LA, whether they're playing in Jacksonville or in LA, especially when Jacksonville goes to the West Coast. Now, the Jaguars had James Robinson in this game, who they don't have anymore, traded him away to the Jets. 17 carries, 100 yards, 5.9 yards a carry, and a touchdown. They do have ETN, 13 carries, 45 yards, 3.5 yards a carry in the game. In the game, Trevor Lawrence went 28-39, 262 yards. I watched this game at the Wildcat with Zach and Nick, who have been in my fantasy football league at the Wildcat Sports Pub, proudly presented by the Wildcat, for many years. So shout out to Zach and Nick this morning. God bless you both, and I hope you're doing well, to you and your loved ones. So in the game, Trevor Lawrence, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 262 yards. Zay Jones led the way, 10 catches on 11 targets, a touchdown, 85 yards. Kirk targeted 9 times, caught 6, 72 yards and a touchdown. Marvin Jones targeted 7 times, caught 4, 33 yards, and he had a touchdown. ETN caught 3, Jamal Agnew caught 1, James Robinson caught 3, Evan Engram caught 1 as well. And JaMycal Hasty was on the team at the time, and JaMycal Hasty is going to be there with Travis Etienne instead of James Robinson this time around. And Snoop Conner also there, who they drafted this year. He'll be out there for him. The Jaguars defense held Justin Herbert to 25 completions and 20 incomplete passes. So almost as many incompletions as completions. 297 yards, 25 of 45, pardon me. One touchdown, one interception. Sony Michel, 5 carries for 22 yards. Austin Eckler's 4 carries for 5 yards. Herbert, 1 carry for 7. They didn't have to face Keenan Allen in the game. Mike Williams caught 1 of the 6 passes thrown his way for 15 yards. That was a touchdown. Josh Palmer, 9 targets, 6 catches, 99 yards against the Jaguars defense. Eckler caught 8 for 48 after not running the ball that successfully. Devin Lloyd had an interception for Jacksonville. Los Angeles, as I mentioned before, no interceptions in the game. Foye Oluwakin had a fumble recovery on the Justin Herbert fumble. So the Jaguars had 2 takeaways. They did not turn the ball over themselves, so that was huge for them. They didn't turn the ball over. They created takeaways. Defense showing some good signs early. They've only gotten better and more consistent this season with time. So now you have, this was one of the games where Jaguars defense showed up, but they weren't consistent earlier in the season. Now you have a more consistent Jaguars defense that's been showing up, a team that's gotten better overall. Trevor Lawrence, who's gotten better, as I said he would in his sophomore season. You have JaMychal Hasty getting involved. Jamal Agnew being a jack of all trades in the backfield, in the receiving core, and out there as well for kick returns and punt returns. You have a team playing better on offense, defense, and special teams, winners of 6 of their last 7, and a defense that showed up against the Chargers on the road in LA, like I said, that's only gotten better. So good signs for the Jaguars in this game. I would play Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler was shut down somewhat, but you're going to get points for receptions and whatnot, so he's somebody you still got to put out there. Keenan Allen worth the play, who didn't play the last time, and Mike Williams, who played the last time, may not play this time as he didn't practice on Tuesday. God willing, he's able to play. He has a back injury. He's questionable. So Josh Palmer gives you some fantasy value in daily fantasy if Mike isn't able to go. If Mike is, look to him, but I would really say the values with Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and Justin Herbert, with some value with Josh Palmer if Mike Williams isn't able to go. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence, on the injury report, limited in practice with that toe injury, but look to him to continue to play. I like Trevor Lawrence in the matchup, and I also like Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Marvin Jones with a little bit of fantasy value for you. Jamal Agnew, limited with a shoulder injury. He is a catalyst on offense and special teams, so God willing, he's able to go. And Evan Ingram gives you some fantasy value, so definitely Evan, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, a little bit of Marvin Jones as well, and some Jamal Agnew, Travis Etienne, and Trevor Lawrence. A lot of fantasy value with the Jaguars. The most of it, to me, with Zay Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, and then some with Travis Etienne and Evan Ingram, and a little bit with Marvin Jones and Jamal Agnew. Big shout out to Walker Little, who stepped in for starting left tackle Cam Robinson and has filled in very well after being drafted by the team last season at left tackle, doing a fantastic job. So a big-time shout out to him. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win this game, and so I'm going Jaguars in this to beat the Chargers. It's hard for them to do it once, and very hard for them to do it twice in a season when they typically struggle, but if they can beat them on the road in LA, I believe they could beat the Chargers at home. So I have the Jaguars defeating the Chargers in this game. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the game at home and continue their successful season that they will take into the divisional round of the playoffs here. I got the Jaguars getting the dub in this matchup and getting to see them move forward here where sports meets that thing called life. So I'm going to give it up to the Jacksonville Jaguars in this matchup, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how they play in this one, but I think that they're going to be able to do it. Remember, Justin Herbert was in that other game. So was Austin Eckler. Keenan Allen wasn't. Mike Williams was. And Josh Palmer. They may not have Mike Williams this time, and they'll still have the rest of the guys. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to do it again and do it at home and hopefully in front of 70,000 plus once again. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We've given you our Saturday content. We'll give you our Sunday content for the Fantasy Football Power Hour, talking about reality and fantasy here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll be back to talk about the Sunday games and Monday night for this NFL wildcard round right after this fast break where sports meets life inside of the Cafe Kubal studios.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. And as we are here inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street for Cafe Kubal, all in Syracuse, New York. You also find them on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location of North Syracuse. And you'll find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. So make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, and we appreciate them as always. Inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, it's time for NFL Wildcard Round Talk 2022-23 season. You see the entire schedule here for you. So we've done our Saturday games. Now time to go to our Sunday game. And as I mentioned earlier, 50% of the games that we're going to see played this week for the wild card are going to be against teams that are in the same division, meaning they will play for a third time. One of those games, Miami at Buffalo. So Miami at Buffalo, taking a look at these two teams going up against each other. The Miami Dolphins have been with Tua, without Tua, with Tua, without Tua. They're 9-8 this season, so congratulations to them. But not having Tua Tagovailoa definitely affects you. Their games against Buffalo this season, they beat Buffalo earlier on in the season with Tua in a game that people were surprised about. Miami won the game 21-19 at home. At Buffalo, they lost 32-29. So in the two games they played Buffalo, they've got to win, and those games were decided by 3 points or less, which says a lot about this Miami team. Now, in the 21-19 victory, they had Tua 13 for 18, a touchdown in the game, and Chase Edmonds had 2 touchdowns, only having 21 yards on the ground and 6 carries, but 2 of those going for touchdowns. Jalen Waddle had over 100 yards in the game. In that first game, in that win over Buffalo, Tyreek Hill had 33 yards in the matchup. Looking at the second game that they had against Buffalo, which ended up being a 3-point loss on the road in Buffalo, 32-29, we take a look at that game more recently. Tua in that game as well, 17-30, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 234 yards. Raheem Mostert was the guy that led the way this time, 17 carries, 136 yards, 8 yards a carry. Jalen Waddle led the team with over 100 yards once again, 114 on only 3 catches for a touchdown, one of those for a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 69 yards, 9 catches on 13 targets, and a touchdown in the matchup against the Buffalo Bills. But this time around, with Tua, right, that's the question. Tua's health. So, this has been the issue all season. When they have Tua, he's good. When they don't have Tua, then, they can limp to the playoffs, but this concussion, did he have 1 that lingered? Did he have 2? Did he have 3? What's going on with Tua this season and concussions? So it's definitely been an issue this year, and it continues on, which is really sad. I don't like seeing this. I don't like seeing it for Tua. I don't like seeing it for Miami. It's not fair to the Dolphins organization. It's not fair to the fans. And it's definitely not fair with Tua, right? So hopefully he will get better. And I'm picking Buffalo to win this game because I can't see. Miami just won to get into the playoffs. They had to beat the Jets. They won 11-6. The game was atrocious. It was an awful, ugly, gross game that, the Jets have just. Honestly, Mike White should be the quarterback for the Jets. I think we know that at this point, or they draft one and they have a quarterback battle. But it's not Zach Wilson, I wouldn't imagine. And, they need to figure things out. Now, granted, they started off the season, feels like it was a million years ago, but they started off the season with Breece Hall at running back, and he showed a lot of promise at potentially being, offensive rookie of the year even. So, seeing that, again, injuries, can't control that. You can control it with what you put in your body and your workout regimen and whatnot, but there's other things you can't control. So, the Jets didn't end great, but they did have a good season, and God willing, they can stay healthy and figure out their quarterback situation. Miami, they got to figure out what's going on with Tua because this is just, it's not working out, right? So Tua's questionable if he's able to play. Skylar Thompson's questionable. Teddy Bridgewater. All 3 of these, Miami's played 3 quarterbacks, and they've all been hurt. So, God willing, they'll be okay. It could be Teddy Bridgewater out there. Raheem Mostert, who had that 117-yard rushing game against them, he's questionable with a thumb injury, and you need your hand to play football as a running back and in general. So Jeff Wilson Jr. might be the guy here. So he's got some fantasy value for you in daily fantasy. Tyreek Hill has some as well. Jalen Waddle's ankle injury, he's on the injury report, but he has some fantasy value. Miami is limping into the playoffs. There is fantasy value, but without Tua, who, how many times have they put him out there this season where maybe they shouldn't have? So I would suggest for the health and safety of this man to not put him out there in this game. So Tyreek's got some value. Jalen Waddle's got some value. Jeff Wilson Jr.'s got it. But the value to me overall, Josh Allen, Devin Singletary, some with James Cook, Jeff Cook, Cookie, is the leader of the Beeville Bills backers that calls Pizza Man Pub home on 50 Oswego Street, where many of the Bills fans watch the games in Baldwinsville, New York, 50 Oswego Street. So come from all over to do that. Make sure you go out and watch it with them this week, and I know they'll definitely appreciate that over at Pizza Man Pub. But Devin Singletary, James Cook, shout out to Cookie, Jeff Cook. James Cook has some value. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox. A lot of fantasy value with Buffalo, and I'm picking the Bills to win the game. Next game we have up here on Sunday, the New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. We'll jump into this one quick. The New York Giants at the Minnesota, well, I shouldn't say quick. We're just running through all these here. We're not going to go any faster or slower on this one. Minnesota won this game barely against the Giants. Barely against the Giants. So keep that in mind, folks. that they played each other 27-24 in Minnesota, where they will be again this time around. And Daniel Jones, 30 of 42, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Saquon had 84 yards and a touchdown, 14 carries, 6 yards a carry. Daniel Jones, 4 carries, 34 yards, 8.5 yards a carry. And Slayton had 4 catches, 79 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, 89 yards and a touchdown on 8 catches. Richie James, 8 catches for 90 yards. A lot of guys got involved. Saquon, 8 catches, 49 yards. So the Minnesota defense not stopping the non-household names and the household names of the Giants. No disrespect, they're just sharing some of the guys you know and some of the guys you may not know. And then on the other side, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, nobody stopped them either. They both had over 100 yards. Hawkinson, 13 catches, 2 for touchdowns, 109 yards. Jefferson, 12 catches, 1 for a touchdown, 133 yards. Dalvin Cook, 64 yards on the ground, 4.6 yards a carry. On 14 carries, got 20 less yards than Saquon and did not get in the end zone. He did catch 3 balls out of the backfield, speaking on Dalvin Cook. And the older brother of James Cook, who we just spoke about at Buffalo, Kirk Cousins, 34 of 48, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So both guys at quarterback attempted over 40 passes, completing at least 30 of them. So the Giants were able to recover a fumble, and, well, they recovered a fumble, one of theirs, so you got to give it up to them for that. So Evan Neal recovered his own fumble. Daniel Jones didn't lose his fumble, and the Giants were able to, and they also lost one. So they fumbled 3 times, losing one of them, and the Vikings were able to recover. So the Giants got to protect the football this time around, and Minnesota also intercepted Daniel Jones. So a bunch of takeaways, could have been more. Giants are dangerous in this game. They really are. And I think they got a shot. But ultimately, I'm going to go with the Vikings in this matchup. I got to go with the Vikings to win this game. So I'm going to go with the Vikings to have the slight edge. I just think they have a little more firepower. But I do like the Giants a lot more than I thought they were going to be this season. They have become. So credit to them for the work that they've done. I think the Giants could definitely win this game, but and they've definitely I think outdone what a lot of people expected. But I feel like the Vikings are going to get it here. Greg said a lot more non-household names for the Giants team. Unfortunately, G-Men are a very live underdog this week against the Vikings. Yes, they are. So we shall see. I think this one could go either way, but I'm going to lean on the side of Minnesota. The next game up on Sunday for the wild card, Baltimore at Cincinnati, that other matchup that we'll see 3 times this season, and we'll actually see it 2 times in the last 2 weeks here as they played each other to end the regular season, and they'll play each other to start off the postseason. Looking back on their games this year against each other, the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati started off kind of limping, and they've only gotten better. They look great after going to the Super Bowl last year. The Rams look like they have a quarterback battle with Matt Stafford and Baker Mayfield brewing, and they looked pretty crappy this year, to be completely honest, with Cooper Kupp out there, and when he wasn't out there, the team still looked bad. The Ravens beat the Bengals the first time around at home in Baltimore, 19-17 in a close game. When they faced off against each other, they lost 27-16 recently, but keep in mind, they did not have Lamar Jackson on the road at Cincinnati this time around. Taking a look at it now, will they have Lamar for this game? The knee PCL injury has left him questionable. Tyler Huntley is still questionable. The shoulder injury. Anthony Brown played this last game, who I covered in his recruitment. Went to Boston College, covered him there. Then he went off to Oregon, and now he's in the NFL. Big shout out to Anthony Brown. He might be playing in this game, but you'd like to expect Lamar Jackson to be playing in this matchup. I don't know how you can go to the playoffs and not play him, but again, it comes down to health. Can't play Tua, so we'll see what they're going to do to get Lamar Jackson out there. And remember, he has a knee injury and he runs a lot. So, I think J.K. Dobbins worth the play. Gus Edwards with a concussion is questionable, so God willing, he can go. But I think the value lies in Mark Andrews and a little bit in J.K. Dobbins for Baltimore. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. The values in all those guys a little bit. And Tyler Boyd in daily fantasy. A ton of value for Cincinnati, which leaves me with Lamar Jackson where he is, and even if Lamar Jackson was playing in this game definitely and was 100%, we're looking at the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals have only gotten more dangerous as the year has progressed. So I don't know how you can pick against Cincinnati, which is why I'm not going to. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game at home, as they are the team that has a better shot of last year's Super Bowl making it back to the Super Bowl because, well, they're the only team in that Super Bowl from last year that's still playing and will make the playoffs and get into the playoffs. Cincinnati, having a very strong season, had a shot at number one between Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo, mind you, and have really done an amazing job. The longer the season's gone on, the better this team has gotten in Cincinnati. So a credit to them, who finished off the season 12-4 behind Buffalo 13-3 and Kansas City 14-3. Remember, Buffalo's game against Cincinnati got canceled because of the unfortunate incident and accidental injury to Damar Hamlin, who is getting better and back at Buffalo. So God bless. Prayers work. Keep praying. Keep believing in God. Keep being good to each other. Keep loving each other up and spreading positivity. God bless you, Damar, and thank you, God, above all, for all that you do. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. When we come back, we will finish up our wild card conversation of reality and fantasy inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Not one of, not a, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour. We'll give you the Monday night game between Dallas and Tampa, the third time these teams will face off against each other in the last two seasons, and second time that they will see each other this season. We'll talk about it right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9Campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9Campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Always happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life, and on Wednesdays for the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. So, NFL wildcard final game that we have, we gave you Saturday's games, Sunday's games. Now Monday night, we'll see the Cowboys take on the Bucs for the second time this season and the third time in the last 2 years, and it has not gone the Cowboys' way either of the other two times, as the Cowboys started the season last season against the Bucs and lost on what looked like offensive pass interference on Chris Godwin that wasn't called, and then looking at the Bucs winning the game at home, on the road in Dallas. Dallas losing this game at home 19-3 to the Bucs in just an ugly game where the Dallas offense couldn't get started. Cut and paste to how they look right now. Bookending it, right? Couldn't get their offense started in the first game of the season and can't seem to get their offense started later on here in the season. Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, who just lost to the Commanders on the road 26-6 in a game that they needed for potentially moving up in the playoffs, where they needed some other help as well. Now, they defeated the Titans on the road. They defeated the Eagles most recently 40-34, which created the opportunity for them to even have a shot at being first place and having a bye instead of fifth place. But losing to the Commanders the way that they did makes you question what type of Dallas Cowboy team is going to come to this Bucs game, because the way that they played most recently is the way that they played against the Bucs, not figuring out a way to get it going. And here we are again with this team, and where does what is Dallas going to be? Beginning of the season, not a lot of offense. End of the season, not a lot of offense in this most recent game. Not what you want to do when you're heading into a playoff game, which has Tom Brady at home, which is always perfect for the Brady bunch to be at home and have yet another, in a season that wasn't good at all for this team, they have yet another advantage. Tampa Bay has the advantage in this game. Tampa Bay has the worst record, yet they have the advantage. Dallas is 12-5. Tampa's 8-9. They got a losing record. and they were able to win the NFC South with a losing record because the teams in the NFC South weren't that good this year. And here's Tampa with a freaking home game, having the opportunity to go up against the Dallas Cowboys, who they beat in each of the last 2 seasons to start off the season. Now, Tampa, mind you, has lost 3 of their last 5 games. They lost at the Niners 35-7, home against the Bengals 34-23. Then they defeated the Cardinals on the road 19-16. Panthers at home 30-24 to take hold of the division for good, because believe it or not, with 2 weeks to go, Carolina would have taken first place in the division if they had won that game. And they lost to the Falcons recently here 30-17, not playing a bunch of their starters. So this is an awful game for the Cowboys to be in. This game sucks if you're a Cowboys fan, because you're at Tampa, you're playing Tom Brady, they know how to beat you, and your offense has been very schizophrenic lately. So worth the play in this one. CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. I'd say there's some love for Tony Pollard, maybe a little bit of Michael Gallup. On the other side of it, Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White. You can look to both of these guys to have some fantasy value. I put a little bit more on Rachaad White. Mike Evans is hurt. He's questionable with an illness, I should say. So God willing, he's able to go. And Chris Godwin. So there is some value. There's a little bit of value with Cade Otton, who I think might find the end zone in this matchup. I came all the way down to the wire in this one. I'm going to pick the Cowboys, but I fully know that this is a perfect game for Tom Brady to get farther this season than I think the Bucs should have gotten. So I'm going to pick Dallas kind of reluctantly in this one. With that being said, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, I want to thank you for tuning in every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate you so very much on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, and MixLR.com, all / Wake Up Call DT. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the broadcast, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and on Facebook.com / LiveNowDT. Once the shows go live, you can find us in the archives. Plenty of shows up there in the archives right now on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. A big thanks to our incredible partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, whose candles are lit all the time in our studio and in my home. Big shout out to Witty Wicks and all the amazing things that they offer. Head out there today. You don't want to miss it. They only have a few Vera Bradleys left for the Star Wars Grogu line, the Disney line. Only a little bit left for the Harry Potter line that are on sale right now. So do not miss out on that. A lot of great stuff coming up at Witty Wicks. So make sure you head out to 190 Township Boulevard in Camillus, New York. There's a reason why you voted them 3 years in a row to be your #1 Central New York gift shop spot. So head out there today if you've never been there to see why. And if you have been there, well, continue to go out there and keep your money local. PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicoli's, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, 317 at Montgomery, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay, Honda City of Liverpool, which is now Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, and Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins and Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse. Lemoyne College coming to you on Wednesdays during Dolphin time, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time with your Dolphins. AD and DT every first and third Wednesday with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, featuring stories with student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. Check all of it out by going to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com for our library of Lemoyne content exclusive to the broadcast on Wake Up Call in our partnership. And, of course, on youtube.com / wakeupcalldt. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. Very proud to have them for the Bobcat Buzz every single month with student athletes, coaches, and administration. We've spoken with national champions as well as programs that are starting for the first time ever. Get your Bobcat Buzz by going to the BSC Syracuse tab for all of our Bryan and Stratton content on wakeupcalldt.com. Subscribe to youtube.com / wakeupcall DT and search Bobcat Buzz for our content. For more information on the exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Bobcats, head to all of our outlets with Wake Up Call, and to find out more on the Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day from the Cafe Kubal Studios Twitter at Call DT Facebook, at Wake Up Call DT Instagram, at Wake Up Call _DT. Plenty of polls to vote in on Twitter, so make sure you keep voting in those. Thanks to Bob Beretta. Thank you to you for being a part of the show. Thank you to the Wildcat Sports Pub for all you do to keep us fed well and to give us a great atmosphere to watch the games and so much more. A big shout out to Danny Tome and the team, and thank you for watching.